Don't forget, you have your audience ballots, so please do vote. I brought this up as a gentle reminder. So my name is Gabe Wardell, and to my left, immediately to my left, is the writer-director Ben Berkowitz. Thank you. And to his left, a man who needs no introduction, and yet I will introduce Mr. Judd Hirsch. First and foremost, Ben, tell us about the genesis of the project. It's clearly got personal elements to it. You grew up in Chicago and so forth. What inspired it, and what are some of the elements that you drew from your personal life?
I'm not Ruben. Sometimes I wish I was, because I think he's going to figure it out eventually. But you know, my writing partner and I, we've written a couple scripts together, and this was definitely the most personal for both of us. There's a lot of both of our families in there. We're both young men who, before we became filmmakers, had kind of a rough time figuring out what we were going to do. And there was plenty of trouble to get into in Chicago and other places. And we wanted to write a story that was about our neighborhood and our area of Chicago, which I'd never seen in a movie before. And you know, people like Harold Ramis, and there's Chicago Jewish actors that grew up in these neighborhoods on the west side of Chicago and the north side of Chicago. But when you see a movie about Chicago, it's always, you know, the Cubs or downtown. And I just wanted to show our neighborhood and the Jewish, you know, community that I grew up in part of the time, you know, and tell a family story that was real and difficult, but ultimately about someone redeeming themselves or beginning to redeem themselves, because I don't think it should be too easy. And you know, that's really where it came from.
And the jewelry store in particular, was there a family history there, or was that a convention that you came up with?
My family is personally not in the jewelry business, but I knew a lot of jewelers in both New York and Chicago. Judd got to meet a couple of them. They visited. But I just felt that was a business where the stakes are so much higher. Those guys operate on such a small margin. You know, they've got millions of dollars of merchandise, but you know, it's all smoke and mirrors. And they could go on. In fact, unfortunately, the guy that owned the store we filmed in that's not a jewelry store anymore. He went bankrupt. So I think he made more money when we were filming than he did, you know, last Valentine's Day. So sadly,
the magic of the movies.
Yeah.
And from your point of view, Mr. Hirsch, you do obviously a ton of work and a career that spans many years, and stage, television, films, and so forth, big blockbusters. What is it that draws you to independent films such as this? What when you read a script like this, what do you respond to in this work?
The money.
In independent film, really.
Salary.
You got paid?
From some of the shysters who ran businesses like that. I thought when Ben sent me this that I thought of the position that I would be in as far as the character was concerned. It's not that I didn't give a crap about the movie, but I love the idea that there was a basis to this boy's place, and that he could not get out of it. As you can see at the end of the movie, he's almost doing Hebraic, well, he is doing Hebraic music. And I thought that was what I probably should represent in the movie, his, in a way, conscience. And if anybody can, I mean, that's a great thing to look forward to. You know what I mean? To be in that position in a movie. And also, I kind of like the idea that this, I don't know, I kind of like the idea that this was a guy that I knew. I mean, I kind of knew who I was supposed to be. You know, I was familiar. Let's put it that way. I didn't know anybody in the movie until I got there, though. So the idea was to find out kind of like where I fit. But I must say, I was truly shocked when I finally saw the movie, because I realized that I miss being in that bar. I just wanted to be part of that movie.
Saul's lap dance was cut for time reasons. It will be a DVD extra, I promise.
No, I thought that there was, You see, filmically, the thing that I truly like about movies is that they move you. If you're not moved, it's not good. If I'm not moved by, and I don't mean just moved because I'm excited because you've generated some action or something like that. I mean by the depth of what either someone has to go through or what we recognize them going through, and that we could, you know, that hits you. And when I saw this one, I realized what Ben was doing with the movie, and exactly where I fit, where the character fit, because it was a sock in the stomach. You know what I mean? That's what I got from this movie, and I hope. I mean, I really think that that's what it is. It's a tough decision type life, right? And we know our society. We know our society and what we do. I don't think anybody can say that they had a smooth life. I can't. I mean, I identify with the boy easily, you know. If you knew my past, you wouldn't see one movie that I'm in.
What I like...
I'm not the governor of Massachusetts.
Not yet.
No, but I'm saying it's bearing, and honestly bearing, and I say this is very brave of Ben to do this, because I didn't even realize it when I first saw it, when I first read it, how daring it was to say that you can end a movie that way. You know what I mean? And in America, I remember back in the oh, I don't want to date myself, but a little while ago, I remember how movies ended in vain. You know, John Garfield and actors like that who always had a problem about either crime or boxing or whatever. They didn't win. They never won. Because we were moved, because we rooted for them, even when they were criminals. Because we knew somewhere in it they were good. They were honest. You know what I mean? And if this character was not as honest as he was attempting to be, and the only thing that made him honest, I believe, is that Jewish thing that he couldn't possibly get away from. I mean, it's like the conscience, the depth of what, I mean, a guy who talks like that, if he has any depth, you wouldn't know it, right? But we saw it because we saw what was going on with his cousin. And we saw what was going on when he goes to see his grandfather. And we saw what was going on when he goes to the coffin. And we saw what was going on when he couldn't even find words to say to his uncle. I mean, the real words. You know what I mean? That's part of the thing that I liked. I like being the guy who said, "Get out of here." You know what I mean? Because honestly speaking, if I was to give him a second chance, I don't think this movie would say what it says.
Right, yeah. What I love about the film and what makes it distinctly independent is it's filled with surprises. And it doesn't tie off neatly, and it keeps taking you down cul-de-sacs and then turning a little different, and the results are different than what you expect. And so it may be a redemption story. And ultimately, the parable about the difference between a thief and a robber is sort of the moral center of the film. What I find interesting about the film, and I'm sure it's deliberate, we're the only ones, we're the witnesses. We get to be the God voice, right? So we are the ones who judge him. So we know everything he's done. And he never fully reveals to any one individual. It's pieces. Everybody figures out one piece of it, but nobody sees the whole plan but us. And in the end, he's got to live with that. He's got to make right. And the cousin says there are certain things that can't be undone, and that's reinforced by his uncle. And so he can't make right, but he can start a new path and go towards a better life.
Yeah, thanks very much. And, you know,
good night, everybody.
Yeah, both of you guys just keep, you know, I mean, it's really, I really, the biggest hope I could have is that people will understand Ruben. They don't have to like him. You know, they don't have to want Ruben to be their nephew or their brother, but everyone's got a Ruben in their family. It doesn't matter, you know, if you're Jewish or not, or there's a lot of Rubens, and you know, I'm sure a lot of us have done things that we can't undo. But what I'm always interested in is what's next. You know, my reason for not wanting to be more heroic is I'm really interested in not just showing some bad guy. I don't think Ruben's all bad, but I'm always curious, what do you do? You know, the problem with so many movies being about heroes, and I like heroes, don't get me wrong, but is not many of us are heroes, and I like to watch a movie about someone I can relate to and learn from, and I think there's a lot you can learn from these people because they're so complicated and flawed and you know, and sometimes dangerous, you know.
We're about to open up for questions. I have one last question. You wrote this with a writing partner, and I know that can be an arduous process. And when you were in the process of creating the story, what were some of the struggles you had, and were there places you wanted to take the character that your writing partner didn't, and vice versa? Did you have it mapped out in advance, or were there times when you said, no, he has to do this, and what were some of the struggles?
It's a great question, and actually, you know, the answer is Ben and I are great. I mean, he's also named Ben, that's why. And we've written a lot of scripts together, so it's Ben and Ben. I'm not talking about myself, don't worry. I haven't had a breakdown. You know, I've come to Atlanta for the first time and have a nervous breakdown on, you know, Ben Redgrave, who is not Jewish. He's British, so it's pretty far. It's pretty much almost as far away as you can get from being Jewish and American. We write really well together. You know, we had a joke for a long time that Ruben's family comes from me, and you know, but a lot of the other nuances and the other characters, like, you know, Ebony's family, like, you know, Ben's from Baltimore, which, you know, I'm just getting to know Atlanta, but I see a lot of, I walked around this area today for a while, which was cool for me. It reminded me of Chicago. And, you know, cities like Baltimore and Chicago and Atlanta, you know, there's certain kinds of people that live here, and Ben knew those characters, so we had no trouble. When you start going into development, even with an independent film company, that's when there's too many cooks. And I won't name names because we got the movie done, but you know, look at the credits of the movie. Look how many producers there are. And, you know, I appreciate it when people, you know, care enough about the characters to want to know what happened to them. You know, it's Tommy, I really feel, is in love with Ruben, but I don't think he'll ever be in a place, at least in this reality, because of the neighborhood he comes from and the other choices in his life. I don't think he's ever going to be able to admit that, and it's tragic. I've seen that with friends. You know, my first film that I made years ago was about a gay man and a straight man from the same neighborhood that are best friends, and a lot of the movie's about a guy like Tommy, a blue collar guy from the, you know, west side of Chicago, having the courage to come out. And you know, it's called Straight Man. It's getting re-released in April. And I don't think Tommy's ever gonna get there. And it's gonna be sad. He's gonna be one of those guys, like maybe, you know, in the last years of his life, he's gonna realize that he could have had a different following, you know, a different path. And with Ebony, you know, because there's originally more scenes with her and her brother. You know, they're both such great actors. Maestro Harrow, you probably recognize from The Wire. He's so good. Golden is amazing. I just, you know, we had to make a 96-minute movie, and it was Ruben's movie. So I hope I told enough that you see that everyone's got a family, and everyone kind of, you know, missteps and still tries to hang on to that family by the end. I mean, Ebony's big ending in this, you know, incarnation of the film is she gets out. You know, Meatloaf gives her the money, and she gets out. And you have to imagine, I'm asking you to imagine, because the scene was cut, that, you know, her and her little brother, you know, she's finally going to make good on what she said, that she's not going to work at that damn club anymore, because it's a dead end. I've seen it, you know. You know, so that's, you know, that's it. And thank you for liking them enough to want to know.
One over here.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Real quick, I've seen like 5 films, and a lot of them were about subjects, about people and places way before my time, and so it was just really great to see a movie that spoke to my generation. And one thing that highlights the generation is the music. So my question was just, did you use other local artists, other DJs, and about Ruben, that actor's name escapes me, did he take lessons to learn how to DJ, or did he go through a big process? I was just wondering about the music.
Great question. This is 100% Chicago hip-hop, locally produced music. A lot of it we found later. through record labels in LA, but we made a point to use, not every single song in the movie is from Chicago, but a lot of the hip hop and a lot of the artists, rappers like Shala, it's made in Chicago, and this is what, the DJs we worked with, like DJ Flip and DJ Major Taylor that you see, he has a cameo at the beginning of the film. They did all Ruben's music as well. I mean, Vincent did take some lessons, but we didn't have the time to teach him how to. Turntablism is very difficult, and people that do it well have been doing it for a long time. And we spent months in the studio trying to get the music right, and the music in general. And Judd's son Alex actually did a bunch of the jazz and instrumental music in the background in some of the scenes. I recorded one of the songs in Polish because the Polish record company wanted 20,000 zlotys or zlatkas, which is a lot. It's still a lot. I was like, oh, if it's like rupees, my wife's from India, if it's like 20 bucks, fine, but no, it's latkes are worth a lot. So I made the song myself. So whenever you're in Meatloaf's office and you hear that Polish stuff, that's us. So
Meatloaf couldn't lay down a track for you.
I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to overstep.
We have one in the middle with the microphone first, and then he'll.
Thank you. This question is for Ben. Speaking of Meatloaf, can you talk about how you got such a great cast to be in this movie, including Judd there?
I'll be really honest with you. Casting, I've learned, even from helping friends produce other movies, it's kind of like a dance. No one wants to be like once you get somebody, then it's easier to get somebody else. Like, a lot of people wanted to be in the movie because they heard Judd was doing it. For a very short time, we had other actors, unfortunately, schedule-wise, couldn't do it. But the ones that we got to do it were all the people that were available and very much desired. Meatloaf loved the script, and he, made a real effort to free up his schedule and come to Chicago. And then a lot of the other stuff, we were lucky. At that time, Maestro Harold, who plays the younger brother, was still living in Chicago with his parents. He hadn't graduated high school yet. So we were able to get him, as a local hire. But really, you gotta pound the pavement and show the script to the actors and try to convince them, like Judd said earlier, and I appreciate that about Judd, is he's like, what's in this for me? What am I gonna find? These guys work really hard, and they work on big, huge movies and TV shows. If you don't have money, you have to figure out what else can I. I'm charming, but I'm not that charming, So
Amen.
yeah, thank you.
What was the shooting schedule?
That's not what got me to do the movie, believe me.
How many days was the production?
We shot for 30 days in the spring of 2009, and then we were in post-production for the rest of that year. Finally finishing the film by last winter, spring. So it was about a solid year just of making the film. And then we started to show it and have screenings. We had our world premiere at the Chicago Film Festival at the end of last year. So just a little bit of a process,
Next one from the middle.
Another casting question. I noticed that Vince Piazza doesn't sound like a Jewish name, and I was curious whether there was a shortage of Jewish actors maybe available for the role, or whether you consciously avoided that.
I'm so tempted to do the good fellow and be like half and then hide the cross. It's a great question, and it was a source of a huge amount of debate. I just kind of fell in love with Vincent. He reminded me of a young Adrian Brody. He was who I was thinking of when I first started working on this script. And Vincent was the right guy, and he had grown up in Queens with a lot of Jewish friends, and he's actually half German, so I used to joke with his agent that he's half Italian, half German. That's a little Jewy, But, the truth is, I think for some people, like my own mother is like, he's not Jewish, I think that's an issue, but it's something that's worth talking about. I think Dov Teckenbach, who plays his cousin, makes up for it. I really still believe you have to go with the best actor, and and so but I appreciate that comment.
What's also like the British and American thing? You need Americans to play Brits and Brits to play
Yeah.
Americans, or else it's not
But
accurate.
I used to play a lot of Italians.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was supposed to do a play with the older Italian brother, you know, in a real kind of low class guy, you know, and the author was this wonderful actress woman. I finally said to her, I said, you really should get an Italian guy to play this part because they're just gonna kill you if they find out about me. And they'll find out about me by knowing me. And I said, she said, no, we got 5,000 years, you and me. And I went, I'll do it.